All right, all right. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. Welcome to the All Pro Podcast, All Pro Investor Podcast, and we got a special one today. I'm not gonna lie. This is a long time coming. I mean, I've been really manifesting this. I know a lot of you who follow me. You guys know that I'm in the real estate space, particularly investing in real estate, single family homes, fixing flips, buy and holds. And one of the few things that I've always learned along the way is that the niches are in the riches, or sorry, the riches are in the niches. And I have a really good friend of mine who's helped me with our business in real estate investing, particularly in the probate space. This gentleman is been in business in real estate for quite some time, and I'm happy to get him on here. Our special guest, his name is Bill Hayman. He's a licensed California professional fiduciary with over 30 years of experience. Bill Hayman has probated and administered over 3,000 uncontested estates across California and Nevada. As the founder of his company, the Probate Source, Bill's mission is to guide families through uncontested probate efficiently and affordably, while also assisting with the sale of real property when needed. So his expertise spans from probate administration, trust, probate real estate sales, and making the Probate Source a comprehensive solution for families navigating these challenges. Bill has saved clients over $20 million in unnecessary probate fees and was recognized in 2020 as a top real estate agent in California and by the American Institute of Real Estate Agents. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you guys to Mr. Bill Hayman. Get him on in here. How's it going, Bill?
Excellent, Gerald. Thanks for the kind introduction there. I appreciate it. The only other thing I'd just like to throw out there to your audience is just so they know that I'm not an attorney and I can't give legal advice, but I can certainly answer questions and give my opinion with my nearly 40 years of experience in the probate world.
For sure. And it's funny how in real estate you meet a lot of professionals and some colleagues, right? And really one of the few best ways you get to meet people is actually in the deals and the transactions themselves. And I remember when we had reached out to you, actually it was our partner Joseph Haw had reached out about a potential deal that he door knocked, found the homeowner. Well, no, sorry, found the house that was abandoned. The house was completely distraught, dilapidated, and he deep prospect for some heirs, associates, or somebody that was related to the owner of the property, and found somebody, right? And so, not a lot of people will go through the through the loops and the hurdles of finding heirs, right? And so he found somebody, and he just fell forward and didn't know exactly how to do it because this was his first year. And as he was navigating the internet and doing some research before ChatGPT, by the way, he found he Google searched probate professionals in California, and lo and behold, we have the Probate Source, Mr. Bill Hayman himself. And I wanted to highlight that, Bill is actually world famous on YouTube. No, I'm just kidding. he does have a YouTube channel. So here's what I want to do actually for the viewers right now is what we're gonna do is we're gonna engage and take some action real fast. I'm gonna hop in his YouTube account and we are going to subscribe to Bill's YouTube account. So I'm gonna share screen. And so Bill is here. His partner. And so here's his account. He's got a bunch of videos answering questions and some really good quality videos too. I mean, look at the thumbnails on that. Save money on probate. How much does probate cost in California? You guys, this is all you need right here. Probates in California, all your questions answered here. So if you don't mind, this is how you guys subscribe. I'm already subscribed, as you can see. Subscribe, you guys, and make sure you turn on the notifications.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of good information in those videos, so I'm sure a lot of it would be helpful to you and your audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If you guys haven't already, please subscribe to Bill's YouTube channel, and we'll be on our way. All right, cool. So, Bill, I think we have a lot of questions for you. I'm sure Darren here. What's up? What's going on, Darren? Darren is super excited to have you. Darren is actually one of our partners as well. He's actually working the deal with us in Sacramento. So take the floor, Bill. Like, how would you like to introduce yourself, and what direction would you like to take this?
Well, I guess I could start by, with your introduction. I am a licensed California professional fiduciary, and being that, that allows me to be the administrator of a lot of estates, and I currently am the administrator of about 30 to 40 estates. I do a lot of uncontested probate work. I help out a lot of investors such as yourself. I help out a lot of realtors and brokers with deals where, they get into probate, they don't know that much about it, and I can help them out as long as it's uncontested. But, there's a lot of questions that people have out there about probate, especially if you're in the real estate area. And, there's many that I could get into, but I would probably say one of the biggest questions I get all the time from investors and real estate agents is, does my offer, when I go to offer on a piece of real estate, it has to be within 90% of the court appraised value? Get asked that a whole lot. And I will tell you that about probably 95% of the time, that's not true. It holds no water. It's actually very rare situations nowadays where you have to worry about that offer coming in at 90% of the court appraised value. So, a lot of people, you should just kind of forget about that, because most of the time it will never apply to your situation. The other thing that you have to understand about probate real estate sales is that getting an off-market deal where the property is not going to go on the MLS and be listed like what I call a retail property, it can be a little tricky and a little tough, and I'll tell you why. The court wants to see that the property has been, advertised and marketed, and that the estate's going to get the highest price possible, which normally is when you go retail on the MLS. Mm-hmm. However, if you can manage to get to all the heirs, whether it's 1 or 5, get them all to agree, and they're all okay with your off-market deal, then you can get it to go through. It's not going to be a problem. But again, getting an off-market deal when you don't have the cooperation of all the heirs is going to be a little tough. It's going to be tougher. Yeah. Okay. I would say those are probably 2 questions or areas that I get asked about the most. Yeah, definitely.
Gotcha. Yeah, we love that. And, a lot of my audience, they're either newbie investors looking to get in the game. They've started up their own operations, generating some leads, and a lot of them narrow down their niche marketing into either they're focused on pre-foreclosures, probates, inheritance properties. For those looking to get into probates, and just a quick thing I wanted to share. I didn't start getting into probates until I started diving into pre-foreclosures. Mm-hmm. And pre-foreclosures helped me get into probates because I seen there was almost this not untapped, but not a lot of folks were focusing on this niche because there was so much with it, right? There was so much paperwork. You got to go through the attorney. A lot of the times the attorneys already refer an agent and the homeowner is now wanting to list it. Now, right. How would you go about that as an investor targeting off-market deals? They get in front of a homeowner, they have somebody that's in probate or haven't even started a probate. How would you go about that?
Well, where I find a lot of deals, probate deals, is abandoned vacant homes of people who have passed away. There's a lot of homes out there, where a person has passed away. The home may be upside down or close to being upside down, or the heirs don't think there's much equity in it and they just want to let it go. So what you're looking for is really find these abandoned vacant homes. And once you find them, start trying to, find out who the owner is, find out if the owner's living or deceased. If the owner's deceased, then you can start to look into, okay, well, has a probate been started? No, why not? And you start looking for the heirs and feeling them out. But I do a lot of deals like that, a lot of deals. And occasionally those deals, they have to go short sale, which happens, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible. The way to find those deals, most cities and counties have some type of code enforcement, and some of your audience may already be aware of this, but you can actually pick up a list from code enforcement as to vacant and abandoned homes. Yep. You can start going through the list.
Yep, that's right. That's how I started. I went straight for the San Joaquin or Sacramento or Stanislaus County website, and you could just pull the list. Sometimes they have it as notice of code violation, notice of, with probate, they typically are found in court portals, right? And so you know how to navigate through the portal.
That's another way. You can go through the court files, the actual websites on the courts, and find cases if that's what you're referring to. The only problem with that is most of those cases will already have probate attorneys involved, and that's going to make it tougher to get an off-market deal if an attorney's involved. You will find some people who are attempting to probate it on their own. Most of the time they're having a lot of difficulties, but those people are worth contacting. Those people are worth contacting for sure.
And when you say those people, you're talking about the folks that already have a case with their attorney, or the ones that...
Well, these would be people who have decided to try and file the probate themselves without an attorney. They're called pro-pers, P-R-O-P-E-R-S, 2 words, pro-pers. And again, those are people who, they're attempting to save money by not using an attorney and doing it themselves. The majority of them, though, once they get it filed and get into it, they realize that they're in over their head and they're looking for help. They're looking for help. But those are the ones that I would target first. You're more likely to have success with them versus the cases that have an attorney involved. Yeah.
Okay. That's actually profound, because a lot of the times we do reach out to people that have already become the executor of the state and already have an attorney, and how our marketing message is, hey, we want to get in front of you. We do understand that there's a court order appraisal and that you want to get it listed. But in the event that you want to let this thing go before you even list it on the market, can we put in a preemptive offer? And
sure,
a lot of the times it not so successful, but we have gotten some traction with some sellers that are interested in the cash offer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not saying not to do that. I'm just saying that once an attorney's involved, it just may be a little tougher. It may be a little tougher. That's all.
Gotcha.
But it's still worth doing. If you're prospecting, I'm a firm believer in taking advantage of all potential prospecting lists that you have.
Yeah. I mean, I've read somewhere where even after the sale of the property, well, not the sale, but let's just say it gets in the hand of a beneficiary, it's an inherited property, and it still becomes something where they would even want to sell in the near future. So as long as we stay in front of them, follow up. Okay. Well, hey, there's some audience in here that, if not watching now, will watch in the future, and we're probably this information is just going right through their head. Like, man, what is probate? They're probably doing some research, getting on some Chat GPT, and Chat GPT is probably giving them the whole breakdown. But in simplest form, or in your best way possible, how can you explain what is a probate and what is a probate process?
Sure. In its simplest form, when somebody dies and they own a home and it's titled just in their name, they're dead. They can't sign a deed to deed the property or sell it to someone. So all probate is, it's just a court process where the court steps in and legally oversees the administration of the estate, to make sure that the house and whatever else there is goes to who it's supposed to go to in terms of heirs or beneficiaries. And that's really all probate is. It's just a process to deliver someone who's passed away, their property and assets, to their beneficiaries or heirs. And that's all it is, in a nutshell. In a nutshell, yeah.
Gotcha. And I'm sure you've heard of horror stories, many beneficiaries, many heirs, and I know a lot of investors will they would rather not have deal with that. But there are some that just follow up and stay in front of them, and eventually someone will sell at some point. Could you share a little bit about court confirmation sale versus is it the court unconfirmed or?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. You will in probate. When it comes to real estate, there's two types of sales. There's a sale when the executor or administrator of the estate, the one who's in charge, either has what's called full authority or limited authority. You're always going to have one or the other. 95% of the time, whoever's in charge of the estate will have full authority. When you have full authority, no court confirmation is required to sell the property. The court basically is not involved. The person in charge has the legal authority to sell the house without the court being involved. However, in those cases when you have limited authority, that's when a sale has to go to a court hearing. The court has to approve the sale, and the judge has to sign off. And when you have to go through that, there's a lot more hoops to jump through, and oftentimes it's tougher for the investor to purchase a property under that situation. So again, two types of sales: either you have limited or full authority. Full authority is easy. Limited authority is tougher. But most of the time, it's going to be a sale under full authority. Yeah.
Gotcha. That's really good explanation. And you know what that tells me, right, as an investor and somebody that operates a lead generation machine, constantly looking for people that are in need of help.
Sure.
In our marketing message, what we make sure we have our callers ask is, do you have full authority? Mm-hmm. Right? And here's some things, right? Well, a lot of folks or a lot of investors, call them wholesalers or investors or brokers or agents, they're giving them a call, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times they might be sticking with the same script that, hey, I'm a listing agent, I want to list your property, or I'm an investor, wanted to buy the property. We see that it's in probate. Well, first off, coming out guns blazing, if you aren't as compassionate and empathetic about their situation, I think you're going to lose that battle. Right?
I agree with you.
And having the right questions to ask, right? That shows that you are in alignment with them, and you aren't just trying to push the envelope on them. And hey, look, like I really need this sale, right? Some of my audience are agents as well.
Sure.
How can agents get listings from probate sales?
Well, I think one of the mistakes, because being that I actually am the administrator of a lot of estates, I get a lot of calls from realtors wanting to, list the property. And when they come across, just like what you were saying, when they come across as if, hey, all I'm really interested in is getting your property and making some money, you do have to come across much more compassionate and understanding and softer. I know when I don't necessarily call to get the real estate sale, I will a lot of times be contacting them to let them know that there's an alternative way to do their probate. And I always try to soften my approach as much as possible. And I'm trying to think of an example of a lot of times when I'm trying to call an heir, I'll say something like, Hey, Mr. Smith, I understand that, your mother passed away at 6 months ago. And, I know how that is. And I do, because I lost both of my parents within 6 months of each other. So I try to empathize with them and say, look, I know that it's a tough time for you. Probate can be tough. I'm just calling to let you know that there are alternatives to using an attorney, especially if everybody's in agreement and you just need to get the paperwork through the system. I can assist you with that if you like. I've been doing it for almost 40 years, and I can save you a substantial amount of money along the way. If you'd like to talk further about it, I'd be happy to talk to you at any time. So, I just try to be soft about it. And as a realtor, you got to be the same way. A lot of them are going to know that you're calling to try to get the listing, because you're not the only realtor that's going to be calling them. One thing I found in the past too is there was a time in the past when I was going after real estate listings in probate. Mm-hmm. And I actually would send a series of letters, 3 or 4 of them, about probate, how possibly I can help. And then I would follow up with a phone call, within 10 or 15 days after that. And that approach actually was working for me fairly well. It was.
Nice.
So, yeah.
You decided to go niche, and you focused on that one thing. And surprisingly, a lot of you that are looking to get into niche, whether it's probate, pre-foreclosure, or inheritance, you'll find yourself going into a rabbit hole. And although it may seem like it's not working, be surprised that you will become the authority in that space, especially when somebody comes to you that doesn't really understand the complexity or the nuances of probate. And when they come to you like, oh man, like I've just gone through 5 transactions or deals, or even if they weren't deals, I've gone through the rabbit hole, and I'm well educated in this space. My next question to you, Bill, is, and I don't know if you might have mentioned this before or minutes ago, but do all probate cases need to be listed on the market?
Yes and no. Technically, if there's an attorney involved in the probate, the odds are they're going to try to push it to be listed, because they have an attorney is actually an agent of the court, or an officer of the court. And as such, they're supposed to do what's in the best interest of the estate. And let's face it, the best interest of the estate is to get the most money you can for the real estate. And you're going to get that by going on the MLS, by listing. Now, the reason I said no is because, actually reframe that question for me one more time.
Yeah. Do all probate cases need to be listed on the market?
Okay. Yeah. Occasionally you'll find that when an attorney's involved, they'll be okay with it not going on the market, as long as the family's okay with that. The heirs are okay. That's your key, is to get to the heirs. If they're okay with it not going on the market, then you'll be okay, and you can do an off-market deal. But if any of the heirs are going to object to that, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
And that makes a lot of sense. And I know you can go directly to them, right, and just maybe talk to every single one of them. If you get lucky and you have a good conversation, sometimes you might have your odd one that just doesn't talk to nobody, right? Yeah. I've heard one story where one of the brothers just kind of threw a wrench in the whole process and just prolonged the whole thing like another 18 months, and it just was a nightmare. Ended up losing the house because it was going through foreclosure, and the foreclosure date was way before the court hearing, and so it just kind of ruined everything.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but you bring up a good point on really good potential lead sources for investors. If you can find a home that is in foreclosure and has got a trustee sale date scheduled, and it's getting close, and it needs a probate, that's when you can come in and be a hero. I'm doing one of those right now. And that's when you'll likely get an off-market deal. Give you an example. I have one going on right now that the daughter was the sole heir to the estate. She was 2 weeks from a trustee's sale on her mother's house that she was living in that had about 120,000 in equity, and she was going to lose it to foreclosure. I was lucky enough to get in touch with her. We filed the probate. I did what are called emergency orders, where I got her a court order that gave her permission to sell the property right away, close escrow. We got an investor involved. We got a signed offer, proof of funds out to the lender, along with a bunch of other information. And we got the lender to go ahead and postpone the foreclosure to give us time to get it sold and get the probate rolling. But those are situations when, you as an investor or a realtor, you can come in and be a big time hero in situations like that. And that for sure was an off-market deal. It wasn't going to be listed on the MLS. There was no time. Plus, we couldn't afford to get, a traditional buyer that comes in and says, okay, well, I want, 21 days to do inspections, so many days for the loan. There's no time for that. So in those situations, you definitely are right there for an off-market deal, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And for some newbies, agents and investors that are targeting pre-foreclosures, they may come across a situation just like you stated. There
Sure.
are some tools out there. You can filter out some lists and get some foreclosures that are close to the trustee sale. Let's say they find somebody, they want to be that hero, but they don't know nothing about the process.
Call me. I'll help you. I'll get you through the probate, part. You can handle the real estate end of it. If you're the one purchasing the property, great. What really helps in those situations is to have a buyer ready to go, proof of funds. If we've got that, we can go to court and get those emergency orders, and we can get it done.
It's got to be a legitimate buyer.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
I know there's some weird things going on in the market right now where people aren't really placing themselves some fake proof of funds, some photocopying. I've heard some things that's going on. It's like,
yeah,
and probate is already a nightmare in itself. And speaking of, sorry, go ahead.
That's good. I should say, yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but it can really pay off if you're doing the right thing and trying to get things done the right way. Sure.
Absolutely. And speaking of nightmares, Bill, what are some nightmares, having dealt with probate, have you overcame that would help our audience?
Well, I would say the biggest, to me, the two biggest nightmares I face is sometimes I'll get into a probate that's got 4 or 5 heirs. And when we start, everybody's in agreement. Yeah, we're all in agreement. This is what we want to do. Okay, great. We get into the middle of the probate when things are getting a little, I'll say, dicey. Yeah. And one of the heirs all of a sudden, starts ghosting me or won't respond or changes their mind. That's just like, lighting a fire and it's blazing because it causes a real problem. I've been in situations like that before. Fortunately, most of the time I have been able to talk with that heir and reason with them and get them, say, hey, look, by you objecting, here's the bad things that are going to happen. Let's try to get together and get this done so that everybody gets what's coming to them. And fortunately, most of the time I'm lucky and I'm able to do that. I would say the other big nightmare is when we've got one of the heirs possibly living in the home, and we've got the home, in escrow, ready to close, and all of a sudden the heir refuses to leave. That's a nightmare. That's a problem because we're either going to lose the buyer, or maybe we're lucky enough to have a buyer investor who's willing to buy the place, with the tenant in it, and they'll take responsibility for getting the tenant out later. However, if that happens more times than not, the buyer is going to want a discount for that. And sometimes it's hard to get that point across to the rest of the family that, look, the buyer's taking on this huge responsibility of basically probably going to have to, file an eviction to get that heir out. So you've got to give them a discount for that. I would say those are the two. Yeah, those are the two biggest nightmares I face at times.
Yeah. So making sure all heirs are in alignment and staying on top of them. So it's not just the executor that I guess we call leads. It's
right.
all the siblings.
Yeah, exactly. And I found that the best way to keep everybody on the same page and everybody in the game is communicate relatively often with everybody. Communication is key in any business, but it's really important in the probate world to communicate with not only the executor but the heirs too, and just let them know, hey, this is what's going on and here's where we're at. If you do that, you're probably going to stay out of trouble.
That makes a lot of sense. I have a question here by Darren Kibata. Do you still have those leads where the heirs are not on the same page? I think to help clarify is, do you still have those guys that you're working with? And is that something that you still follow up with until now?
Well, I'm trying to make sure I understand the question. I mean, does he mean where the heirs are not in agreement? Is that what he's saying or asking?
Yeah, I think that's what he's saying. Yeah. Darren, if you can clarify your question, we would love that. Okay. Well, moving forward here, I have one question here that I've written down, and this is probably one of my lengthy ones.
It's okay.
How do I, or even as the audience, the audience as investors, how do I, as an investor, put someone like yourself in front of a state representative if my goal is to help them sell their home by saving costs and attorney fees, when my goal is I want to be able to purchase the home?
Sure.
Is there a way to go about that? Like, is there a pitch, or like, what do you do?
Well, I mean, on average, if people use my services, on average, they save $10,000. Okay, that's on average. Sometimes it's a little less. Sometimes it's a lot more. I had one case in Southern California where I actually saved them $85,000, so they were pretty happy. But you can, you as an investor, when you find these leads, potential deals, you can go in and tell them, look, I can get your probate done and save you on average $10,000. And you can team up with me. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna do anything to affect or get in the way of your real estate sale or you purchasing the property, as long as the family's in agreement. But I'll get all the probate work done at a significant savings to the family compared to what an attorney is going to charge. So that can be part of your value package and what you're bringing to them. And you don't necessarily have to know everything about probate. Mm-hmm. You just have to know that, okay, look, I'm gonna bring Bill in, and he's going to handle the probate end of things, and he'll talk to you about that. And I do that with a lot of brokers and some investors. Sure.
Okay. That's interesting. It seems like the theme here is with probate is like, as long as everybody's okay, we're good to go.
You just nailed it. Yeah. You just nailed it. If everybody's in agreement, there's not going to be any problems. There's just not. No.
So speaking of that, there's a NOPA, right? A notice of proposed action.
Correct.
And it's the court's job or the probate referees to get the NOPA over to each beneficiary. And how does that affect a sale of the property?
Sure. The NOPA, N-O-P-A, actually stands for Notice of Proposed Action. And it's a standard probate form. And it's used when you have that. We go back to when you have full authority, which is most of the time. The NOPA is just a form which basically lists the terms of the sale. Okay. And that form is mailed out to all the heirs. And they have the option, they can sign it on a line that says, I consent to this, I'm agreeing to it, and then send it back. They could sign the line that says, I object, and send it back. If they object, that's a problem. Or they could do nothing. And it's actually better if they do nothing, because the court considers if they do nothing after 15 days, that's consent. So that's all the NOPA is. Now it's usually the attorney's responsibility to prepare and get that out. Or if I'm doing the probate, it's my responsibility to prepare and get that out. But that's what a NOPA is. Now, there's an alternative to that. There's a form called waiver of notice of proposed action, or waiver of NOPA. If all the heirs are in agreement, you can get them to sign that waiver form, and then you can close in 2 days if you want to. If you're using the standard NOPA process, there has to be a 15-day waiting period from the time it's mailed out before you can close escrow. Yeah,
I can imagine there being 5 heirs. FedEx Express mail doesn't get quick, doesn't get delivered quick enough. And I think, and so have you had instances where it's gone through, or it hadn't gone through, and it just kind of threw a wrench in everything? Or I can imagine.
Believe it or not, in almost 40 years, I've only had one time when somebody fouled up the NOPA and it threw a wrench into things. And that's really because when I take on a case, I make sure that I know that the heirs are going to cooperate.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. If somebody brings a case to me and there's 4 heirs and they're all fighting and nobody agrees, I tell them, look, I can't help you here. You're gonna, if you want to do this, you're gonna have to get an attorney involved, because if heirs are gonna fight, I'm out of the picture. I can't do it.
So much of a headache. You just don't want to get involved.
People are fighting. It just causes for everybody. Fighting is not good. It's not good.
Okay, so Darren clarified his question here. What happens to the multiple heir deals that Bill was not able to convince all parties to sell?
Okay, if he's talking about deals, let's see, let me read that question. What happens to the multiple heir deals? Okay, so deals where there's a lot of heirs and I'm not able to convince all parties to sell. It makes sense. There are some probates that I do where they don't intend to sell the house. They're going to keep the house. And that's up to them. They certainly can do that. They can keep it. I can still do the probate work and save them money. But I always have a contract with everybody I do business with. And if I go into it where they tell me they're going to sell and then they don't sell, I have a clause in my contract for that, where if you change your mind and don't sell, then the fee is this, which is higher than it would have been. So, yeah.
Real smart. I think you did.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. Okay. Well, hey, look. I know we're getting close to the hour here, and I want to make sure we really take advantage of this time with you, because this is valuable, and I can agree that I think anybody that's watching this now or even later are going to help. They're going to really reference this video, and I hope everyone at home is taking notes, because I know I'm taking a whole bunch of them right here.
Got them down.
And here's a curveball for you. I don't know if it's a curveball.
Okay, I'll try it.
Is it advisable to avoid probate altogether?
Well, let me again preface it with, as long as everybody knows I'm not an attorney, this is just my opinion, and from my experience. Yeah, it is. One of the easiest and best ways to avoid probate is simply do a living trust. Um, I mean, I have a living trust. Most of my family does. A lot of people out there do. But a living trust will avoid the whole probate picture, and you can privately sell a property like that when someone passes away if it's in a trust. So sure, sure,
Gotcha. Okay. And I
yeah,
mean, I think it's important for any of us that aren't attorneys is to disclose that, preface that we aren't, we
yeah,
aren't qualified to talk about this. So, I'm always strong with like marketing message. And, in the beginning of my real estate career, I've always been told like, when you're generating for real estate leads, you're a marketing and sales company at first, right? And the
sure,
nuances, the understanding probate, pre-foreclosures, you learn that as you go real deep into that niche, and you're
right,
able to serve people the best you can with your best foot forward. But understand how to market yourself, understand how to get your foot in the door and communicate with sellers. Um,
absolutely.
and so I'm 5 years in. I'm getting into probate. I think I'm 2 years into probate, and I've learned so much. So, um, Bill, having you on here is absolutely great. And I think you answered this question that I have ready here is how much does probate typically cost? I think you said somewhere around the ballpark of $10,000.
Well, the $10,000 that I mentioned before, that's how much on average I save families. But probate, the cost of probate is actually based on a percentage of the gross value of the estate. So currently, for example, a $500,000 estate. Okay, let's say you got a house that has a gross value of 500,000. The total probate fees to do that $500,000 estate is going to be, just a second here, 7, 9, 11, $26,000 is what the total probate fee would be to do that. If I was to probate a $500,000 estate, probably be looking at about 7,500, 8,000. So it's a significant savings.
Night and day.
Yeah, significant. Probate's expensive if you go through an attorney. Very much.
Gotcha. All right. Well, you know what? This isn't gonna change absolutely everything I'm doing, but there is a lot of things here that I've written down that I will take and I will implement in my business. And I hope to bring you back some business as well, Bill. I mean, you've been such
No problem.
so helpful to my business, and I,
Glad,
I
glad
I have a good network of investors and people that are looking for deals that come to me and see me as an authority in probate. And I thank you for that. Right. And I know
no,
you're saying, I know you tell me, I'm giving you too much credit, but hey, your YouTube video, that's my search engine. I don't go to Google. I go to Bill's YouTube channel.
I appreciate that very much so. And if in the future you want to do something where maybe I could, give your audience just a brief little seminar on the probate process, be glad to. So
I love that.
sure.
We can dive deep into that. Joe Ha says, "What up, Bill? The man, the myth, the legend. Let's go."
Well, you guys are setting the bar pretty high for me, man. It's going to be a long fall down.
Oh man. Hey Bill, where can we find you?
You can certainly find me at my website. It's just, theprobatesource.com. You can always go there. You can always give me a call, 916-257-6356. You can email me if you want. It's ldaprobateservices@gmail.com. Yeah.
Awesome.
Text me, call me, anything. I'll get back in touch with you as soon as I can.
Love it. Love it. Bill, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on here. I really appreciate you. And until next time, I'll connect with you again and you have a good rest of your night. We'll log off.
Absolutely. You too. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Bye.
All right, everybody. Well, I hope you loved it. That was that was an absolute treat for me, especially. Bill's my go-to guy. He's the rock star that I refer people over when it comes to the probate, specifically in real estate. And so, any of you that are looking to connect with Bill, that may even have some leads in the pipeline that are going through that, and you just didn't know what to talk about, get on the probatesource.com, log into YouTube and get onto Bill's probate page and connect with him. I mean, it's as simple as that. We don't have to know it all. All right. We don't have to be the guy that knows everything there is about pre-foreclosures, how to close deals, different acquisition strategies, different everything, right? But if it's one thing that I can choose to be good at, that's getting in front of people, communicating with them, and solving their problems. So if it's one source that I can provide for people when it comes to pre-probate or probates or somebody dealing with any of that, I provide them the probate source. So you guys, it was an absolute pleasure. We're logging off here. Until next time, y'all have a good night. Take care.